So, I'm going to be making this little video here just to show you guys what most of these settings are for and to what you should be using actually, because this will make more sense in the end for when you're trying to play and get optimal performance out of the game. I'm not going for over the top high end gaming equipment here. But right now I'm running 64 gigs. The maximum VRAM usage for your graphics card is always going to be 8, or if you have a higher end GPU, it's going to be 12, 16, 32, and so on. But for your default memory, there's no real way to change that. VRAM is centered for your graphics card. It's going to do it your actual memory. Minimal effect is taken on by your render resolution by your GPU actually. 3D rendering is for your VRAM primarily. Doesn't actually do anything for your card. So leaving it at 100 or below 100 is okay. It's optimal. You can play around with this below 100. If you want to push it a little higher, you can do that. My recommendation for that would be is to head to your display, change this, put it in windowed, and then you can lock the mouse to the screen. There's a way to do that. I think it's actually in full screen borderless. Yeah, cursor free to move out of the space. But if you're playing the game and you're not tabbing out with the menu or hitting escape, then windowed will work, and you can play it in a higher resolution and get a little more push out of your graphics. It'll make everything look nicer. But for now, I'm just going to go through what I have set up here. You can kind of copy my settings if you want. We're going to go through it one at a time. So my recommendation is full screen borderless. You won't have any issues there. If you're using the extended window with multiple monitor display, and you can use the multiple monitor display to go across multiple monitors when you're playing and cut it in half, you want this option. If you're using display monitors, you can select which one you're using for your primary. Your graphics card, of course. That's all not. You got your refresh rate here. You can change that if you're not using borderless. If you're using exclusive, this option becomes available. You can change that. Full screen exclusive. Full screen exclusive, you don't have to worry about that either. Heading down the aspect ratio, you can leave this on automatic, or you can change it depending on your monitor ratio and where the borders cut off and how you actually have your monitor set up. You might have it widescreen, you might have it mounted, you might have it turned, I don't know. It's kind of whatever your preference is. Shaders here, if you really are having issues with your shaders, or if you're having like bad load times, like the pictures or something is like blurry in the background, or like further distance objects like this in the background don't show up as well, you can always reset them. You can always do preloading. You can play around with this if you really want to. It could cause you to disconnect and some lag or even crashes. This could be causing people to disconnect mid-match or at the start of a match. People have been experiencing issues where they land and they get disconnected. That could be a shader issue. So go in here, reset your shaders, wait for the entire time that it is up here counting. I don't know, go do something else, let it go. You don't need to sit there and watch it, just let it count. If it takes forever, it takes forever. Just let it go, because it will work in the end. And then when you play a match, restart the game, and then if it does it again, let it go. Just let it redo the shaders. It's okay if it has to do it once or twice when it restarts. Now, if it's doing it every time you launch, that is a problem. My suggestion then would be is to just completely reinstall the game. Make sure the game is fully deleted, and then reinstall it. Brightness is your preference. You can play around with this. I have it set to 52, just so I can see dark corners. And it works for me. It's kind of whatever your gamma is on your monitor. We're down at display gamma. If you change this option, it can cause your game to crash, because then your game thinks that you're running on a TV and it's rendering things in for the gamma display for a TV and not a gaming monitor. So that's where we're at with that. Um, Constrain mouse to the game window. This is the other option I was talking about when you're playing in windowed mode. You can enable this, and you don't have to worry about your mouse launching off the monitor, and you can play with different resolutions. And like I have two multi-monitor display. When I'm in this mode here, my mouse will cut off onto my second monitor over here. So I can enable this, and that will prevent that from doing that. I'm not that worried about that. For eco mode, set this to custom. Go in here, off, off. Set this to unlimited. In my opinion, this shouldn't even be an option. Just leave this on unlimited. Why are we limiting frame rate? There's no reason for it. You're here to play the game. Menu render resolution, leave that on maximal. That's my suggestion for that. It's just the background stuff that's running when you're looking at your game menu, and it's just the the 3D rendering in the background, like your guy's standing there and there's bombs going off or fire in the background. Just leave it on maximal. Pause rendering, pause that. That's just for the background. It could cause the game to crash for some people on the start if it's rendering something like right away. Focus mode is for your other monitor. It just blacks out your other monitor. You can play around with that if you like to. It just dims out your other monitor. I haven't noticed a performance issue with that. Its default is 90. You could just leave it there. We're going into quality now. Set this to custom off the default. Just off the rip, just hit custom. Because we're just going to change everything anyway. This is where we get into AMD and GeForce users. I'm using all AMD. I already explained this, what this is. Dynamic resolution, if you have this enabled, the only reason you would have this enabled is if you're maintaining a targeted frame rate, or you're using sharpening or upscaling. If you have it enabled, my suggestion would be is to go in here, and you can change it to, I would say, about 80. If you're using a lower end graphics card with lower end RAM, I would say about anywhere from not below 60, but 50 to about 60. 50 to 60, somewhere in there. Maybe 55 would be comfortable for that type of computer. For higher end computers, you can go to 80. Just don't drop it below the 50 point. I said 60, but I'm more thinking on the lines of like you're running like a 1660 Ti, somewhere in that ballpark. The next setting down here is the upscaling. I have mine set to 10, just so I have some kind of graphics enhancement. I do like when I see the buildings look nice and everything is running. If you're using a NVIDIA, NVIDIA will automatically pick a setting for you. You could disable this upscaling. It's not necessary. I would recommend leaving it on and then just lowering these, because sharpening will make the game look nice, regardless of the fact of these are all low or normal. We got our VRAM scale. Just max that out. Your other processes will take up whatever for your graphics card. The game will take up at least 3. If it's taking up more than 3, my other suggestion for that would be to go to this, disable this, go here, disable that, then that should free up some of your VRAM. The other thing I'm trying to think of right now is for like visuals and texture. Depth field, I would leave that on. Bullet impact, leave that on because it's in the game. Just because you can't see it anymore doesn't mean that the game isn't rendering it. So your computer won't render it, but the game itself is. So particle resolution still renders that even if it's disabled. So it doesn't really matter to begin with. It doesn't actually do anything, even though it says GPU low and CPU low. I've done a test already. It does actually render it, even though it's disabled. It's a lie. This whole setting here is an absolute lie. Just leave it on. There's no effect loss, there's no effect gain by leaving it on or off. So just on, so you can see the bullets. Persistent effect. You can leave this on. Nothing bad here. Shader quality, leave it on medium or at least on low. Some of the shaders will be arguable, but if you're using variable rate shading, you can leave this on low. If you're not having that on, you can put this on, I believe it is, you can put it on high actually, if this is off. Default's on, I think, on high for most people if you're using a high-end graphics card. But persistent effects, you can leave this on or turn it off. It's kind of just whatever your visual is for explosions or deflag. Particle resolution, you can leave this on normal. You're not going to need to see all the little sparks and everything. I think we all know what a thermite looks like by this point. Detail quality level, you can turn this on low, you can turn it on normal. I have mine on normal just so I can see puddles and little grass everywhere. So I know like the depth of like a puddle or depth of like where the building is. On stream demand, streaming, set this on, turn it to 64, turn this off, and you should be good. You won't have any issues for like maybe the second time you load into a map. First time you're just downloading all the streaming and all the textures and all the map and all the buildings and every little detail you're running around. Local textures is on normal. That's what the only option is here. You can put it on low. I don't recommend that. I mean, you can see the difference here in the VRAM. It's only like half a gig. Really, it's like 25. It's not gonna like kill your performance having it on normal. Nothing bad will happen. Shadow quality, I have mine on high. A lot of people tell you to turn this off. A lot of people tell you to turn that off, turn this off, turn that off, turn this off. I don't really see an issue with these. If you're having a problem with shading, or if you notice you're firing your gun and this is like looking pixely, turn this off. Just turn off screen, space, shadows. You can leave the rest of this on. Turn off screen, space, shadows. That should fix your gun freezing up while firing or having a weird latency issue. Television, you can leave that on near. I don't like it on all, just because I don't need to see the dynamic shadow of something moving because the in-game sun moved and every little grass blade shadow. You're not going to see all that. You just leave it on near. Deferred physics, leave that on high. Volume quality, leave that on high. That's just for like sun rays, as you can see here. Weather grid. Weather grid is interesting. I've had it on ultra, I've had it on high, I've had it on normal. I'm not entirely too sure like what is going on here. Activision, from what I submitted a ticket on, they've actually said that having this on ultra should increase your performance at the loss of a couple frames, but I haven't really noticed anything crazy about it. I just leave it on high because the distance that you can see, this is on, I believe, low, this picture here. So if you see the difference in texture in the background, the weather, like the tree and stuff, having it on low, you can actually see the tree more. Having it on high, or ultra rather, here in this picture, You can see the rain. You can see the background where the raindrops hit. It doesn't necessarily really do anything for multiplayer or even Warzone in that it's just kind of a weather option. It's like if you want to see the rain or not. I mean, you're rendering in drops of water that are clear, so your graphics card sees that as, I believe it is rendered 3DA. So each pixel is the weather grid on the top of the map. So it's one entity with sub-entities that are basically holographic. So it doesn't really lose you a performance grade or anything like that, which is kind of interesting. Water quality, I would leave it on all. Unless you're having a problem seeing things, you could put it on water countless statistics here. Just delays the rays of light going through to the floor. Your display wet effect surface that comes in contact with the water, that's just the effect like illusion, like the ripples. I like seeing all of it so I can see somebody hiding in the water at the bait, like at the bottom here. Just lay in there. View 120. If you are going for short burst and short run-ins, like you're going to be constantly up close and friendly with people, the suggestion I believe is 102 to 107. And then if you're going for mid-range, the suggestion actually was that you put it to 60. Somebody was saying that if you put it to 60, you get better shots. You have more control over your gun. I personally have tried that. I noticed minimal difference, but the comfortable point for new players that I have noticed is like 106 to about 112 to even 115. Putting it to 120, you seem like you're more worried about things that are happening like out of your view line, like out here, and you're worried about stuff that's happening over here and over here, and you're not focused on what's happening dead center. This is all preference, by the way, with these settings here. You can do affected here. It's just the difference between when you zoom in and then the scope with the iron sight. It just makes things look closer. Default, I'm going to say for your weapon field view. The only reason I'm saying default is because there's been some issues with that. And having it set for wide or narrow seems to be crashing people for some reason. If you've been running it on those, good for you. I've had the issue where I've run it on narrow and I've crashed, so not too sure what's going on there. Third person field of view, leave that on 80 as default. It's been having problems, apparently higher than 90 for some reason. It disconnects people if you move like a weird way. Vehicle field of view, leave that on default. Same thing, narrow, wide, it's causing some problems, apparently, with the vehicles, and people's games are just freezing out of nowhere. World motion blur, turn that off. This one too, turn that off, you don't need them. Film grain, put that to 0. It's not helping anybody, it's not helping you, it just makes the game look pixely. It's at least 50%, I would recommend that. 50% for this one too if you're playing in third. Third here, personal ADS. Helmet cam. So this one I've noticed that the game is a new option with the camera view. I'm going to say you should probably have this on game perspective. I don't know why I didn't. You can use inverted flashbang. It just makes the game go black instead of going white when you get hit by a flash grenade. It might actually help you out because you can kind of see more when you're coming out of a flashbang instead of a white outline. It's just black. If that's messing with your eyes, switch it back to this one. You can play around with that. It's just a vision thing. For you controller users, I'm going to say go in here. Play around with your gameplay toggle options. Might improve your gameplay just a little bit if you actually go through and read everything. Check out these like little sub menus and things that are hiding in here. Same thing with these. You got sub menus hiding in here for your aiming. Controller. You got sub menus. Like, look, you got all these dead inputs. You can literally control everything with the controller, man. Mouse and keyboard users, you guys have these settings here for each individual gun, each individual ground vehicle, third-person view, kill streak, airstrike, different sensitivities for the UAVs and the bomb drones and missiles. You got ADS and sensitivity, transmission, timing, gradual. We got tack stance and tack stance switching when you're slide canceling into a firing with your gun on the side. We got monitor distance circumference. You can play around with this. This is just your 16:19. It's just the same thing that was over here with your aspect ratio. You can change the aspect ratio by changing the resolution, and then you can mess around with this. But right now it's just set for 1.33, which is default. You can also play around with your zooms. I use couple weird zooms. I'm messing around with them myself. Still kind of fine-tuning them the way I want it. We also got vertical axis aiming. That's when your gun's on the side and you're sliding. We got precision here. I prefer precision for third. It just makes the game feel a little more realistic. These options here, I would actually recommend playing around with these. You might find something that's better. Like personally, mouse smoothing, it's not a bad thing because it might help you aim better. For one, I'm gonna enable it myself here. But you can also do mouse filtering, just to show how much like the previous frame was. So that way your gun's not like flipping all different directions when you're shooting. It's moving a little slower with whatever your last movement was. Use system mouse cursor. You can enable this. You can use your Windows mouse cursor if you have a custom mouse cursor. That does work. Can't use that. That's completely up to you. Keybinds, I would recommend doing custom keybinds and actually going through and actually reading everything in here and hitting all these little sub menus like this one here for advanced combat and get the game to how you want it to be and make sure you're not accidentally hitting something that you don't want to be hitting when you're in the middle of a fight, like opening up a menu, and it shouldn't be doing that. You could also set it up so you can use the buy station faster. You might just want to set it up so when you open that buy station, you might want it set up for your numpad or something, or the side of your mouse, and you can just hit a button and instantly buy a UAV or buy your teammate back. There's people that actually have that set up. That's why they do it so quick. When they open that buy station, instant buy 3 people, instant buy UAV, and they jump into a building, and you're still shooting at the guy, and he's not even downed. That's how they're doing it. The gameplay options here and vehicle behaviors, you can play around with these. Your overlay behaviors, you guys can mess with this. I'm not going to suggest going in here and changing a lot of stuff. A lot of this is actually okay how they have it set up by default. What's the other thing? We got that out of the way, that out of the way. Oh, interface. I'm not that worried about the audio right now. The audio's kind of just really basic stuff. If you're using your microphone, there's push to talk. I'll run this real quick actually. Microphone input, default, enhanced, microphone, audio. It's kind of whatever your system uses here. All your devices will be displayed in here. Your microphone level, leave that to 100 if you're using the in-game. If not, then you can use test here and see what it sounds like. Sub, you guys can leave this on if you really want to. I'm gonna just turn it off. I don't like the subs. It's just an extra thing popping up on the screen that doesn't need to be there. Also, mono audio is like bathtub type audio, like bathroom, that you can hear left and right speaker depending on where the sound is coming from. That could help you hear footsteps, but it's going to merge them to left and right, so you're not going to know where the person's coming from or the noise is coming from. Tonight is sounds. If you have that, then you can enable this, and it'll help you out there just a little bit. War soundtrack song, you can put that on. Juggernaut music, you turn that off if you don't like it. We also have the hit marker for the Modern Warfare, the Classic, and the None. So that's all up to you. You can play around with these settings. Mute game when minimized. I leave that off personally. What else do we got in here? Voice chat. So on all lobby, on default, and we got ourselves voice chat volume, which is 50. That's where I found it comfortable at. Master game volume 100. You don't need that. Dialogue volume 100. Effects 100. Cinematic 0. I have words track volume on. I don't use it. I have it off. I don't want to hear that music when I'm in a vehicle. I want to be able to hear a user if they're outside the vehicle or running around. We got stereo. This is the speaker output for mine. I use stereo. I use default. I use headphone, bass boost. If you're using a sound bar, I would recommend using cinema. It's going to be more movie theater style for you. Your sound bar, yes, it will work that way, but your cinema is going to make it more loud, more booming if there is something happening. Let's see here. What else? We got these. We got that out of the way. We got this. All right. Okay, color optimization. If you're having color vision issues here, that's for you guys. Colorblind, whatever. That's all your department. I'm not going to go through that setting. You guys can probably figure that out. We got subtitles here too. If you really want to use those, you can enable this, and Optimacy obviously shows you what it does there. We got HUD. So my suggestion is use a square map. Square map's going to be much larger and give you more area and more volume. We got mini-map rotation. You can enable that. If you don't, then you don't like it. It's up to you. Compass, I suggest leaving that on. You tell your teammates north, south, 345, whatever degree the enemy might be coming from. Crosshair, I suggest actually turning that on. You can play around with that. Make it larger, make it smaller, whatever you want to do. Hit markers, leave that on. So that way you know if you hit a guy. Damage-based hit markers. Full name. Leave that on full name, please. Because when you hide the usernames, it, for some reason, can cause a UI error and just crash your game. I'm not sure why. I just know that is a thing. Somebody had theirs on Aggravated, and it kept crashing their game every time they would shoot a guy. So my suggestion, just leave it on full name. In-game text on. Fade after 10 seconds. Squad heal and stamina. You can leave that on. If you want to see only their health bars, you could do that. It's up to you. I prefer to see everything so I know what's happening with my team. This is just stuff that's just going to pop up here. You can enable that if you want to. I I did have it enabled a while back. I just don't really have any use for it anymore. What is the other thing here? What else do we got going on here? We got telemetry label sizes. You can change the size of those things. We got network icons. So you can disable this if you don't want to see that, if you're having a network issue. Connection meter. If you know what you're doing with network, you can enable that. Hardware in-game alert icon. I mean, if the game is really getting that crazy and that hot, then you should probably be taking a break at that point. But don't ever think anybody will ever see this ever, unless you're like streaming for like 26 hours on non-stop gaming and it's like probably about like 90 degrees outside and you got like every window open in your house. Gameplay tips. I personally, every time I come in, I do turn that off. And I did not do it that time around. Guess I forgot an option. Skip introduction. If you can, disable that. Tooltips. Disable. If you need to really know something, just look it up. Menu prompts. Automatic. And that's about it. You also have your account network here. All these options are for your network. If you know what you're doing, you can go in, you can change them. Some of this is like more your friends list alerts and type deal. Whispers and all that. You can play around with that. The network stuff, online, all this. This is all your account stuff. Cloud storage. Some people, and I'm gonna go very short information with this. Some people said by disabling this, it makes the game actually work correctly. Some people were telling me by disabling this cause problems. There's a lot of controversy with this. I personally, every time I've launched up the game and had the game installed, I've had it on and not even knowing that this was an option, but basically it saves your keybinds, your gameplay settings, and your favorite settings into the list to the cloud. So anytime you reinstall a game anywhere and you sign in with your account, it keeps your information. It'll log it over to your account, your keybinds, all that. It technically it could cause an issue if you were, for say, having a problem and you wanted to change a setting and then the cloud's updating your profile every time. I mean, I guess it could be causing that type of problem. But at the end of the day, it's whatever you want to do to make life easier for you. But personally, I've never had an issue with it, so I can't say that there really is a problem with it. I haven't seen any issues with it personally. I've only had one encounter that somebody actually had to go quickly into this menu and disable this for their game to actually continue to function normally. So I guess it can cause problems. It's like one in a blue moon, I guess, type of deal. But I don't know. You could disable it. You could leave it on. I don't really see a problem with it. You can see your blocked players here as well. This option, which is kind of neat. There's people in here that I had blocked for like years. But network info. I'm not gonna hit that, but you can hit that. That'll tell you your network information if you're having network problems. Might give you a little bit more insight on your geographic region and what you have connected to your IP and what's going on with the game and how the game's identifying your network. That's about it. You get your quick settings, whatever you want to put there. I only have one thing there. But Yeah, you get your Game Pass, free store option. That's it. You got the other menu over here with all the games. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this. If you need any help with any type of settings or anything, heading over to the TTN Warzone Discord. Just search it up on Google and you should be able to find it. Join in, make a tech support ticket, or just ask around in the chats. If you need gun loadouts or anything like that, they got all those. Or if you just want to come in and play with some other people, just come in and hang out.